Yes, well, identity crisis. So we all struggle with identity crisis as we're growing up in our culture, in our day-to-day, our workplace, our church, wherever we may do. We struggle because we're trying to be, in some cases, we try to be things that people see us or involvement
I get that.
in. So, and we don't understand that it plays a part, meaning that who we are and who we are serving. So, identity crisis also means to me that we serve God. We are to continue our walk in Christ and make sure that we bring followers and believers to the kingdom, servitude, and making sure that, you know, we don't struggle with our own identity.
That's it.
We come to it and, you know, we just have to serve.
Amen.
So, and that's the only reason, you know, we're here, because God first knew us.
That's it. That's
So,
it.
That,
Well, number one, absolutely, I've struggled with it.
Okay.
I grew up with an old school dad
Yeah.
who taught men to just kind of get over it. We had a pack of 4 boys, but it was still kind of get over it, man up. And as I was growing up, women were being empowered in education, in the work world, and men that were getting over it weren't learning how the women were being empowered to be more than just helpmeets, but leaders.
Right.
And we kind of lost some of our leadership qualities by getting over stuff.
Right.
And the women's leadership qualities were growing. So we didn't know how to adapt to that. But as I got wiser, I'm learning how to adapt to that, but it's come too far, too short in some instances.
Right.
Because I believe a lot of women have surpassed us in leadership. So it's up to us to regain some of our identity so that we can make that more of a balanced approach. Not that we have to pass them.
Absolutely.
But it has to be balanced.
Absolutely.
And that's my thought about it.
So associating yourself with a thing, whether it's a community, a person, or like I said, a person, just anything. You're associating yourself with that thing, and you're attaching and becoming what that is.
Okay. Can you give like an example?
So an example would be, I would say, well, we got so many different communities out here, and I would say growing up, I associated myself with my mom, and so when she kind of, went into this place where she lost her mind, and she looked in the mirror one day and she was like, I don't know who you are, meaning talking to herself. I couldn't understand that, and seeing my mom be this person who did hair, always dressed nice, was always, just kept herself up. When she lost herself, I felt like I lost myself because I attached myself, to her. And so I had to find who I was and not who I was being a part of her.
Gotcha. Being her daughter.
Yeah.
Got it. I never thought about it from that perspective. Thank you so much for sharing.
No problem.
I think for me, a point where I had an identity crisis, which was probably a time where I feel like a lot of women hit an identity crisis, is becoming a mom. And in that, I felt just unsure of myself and trying to figure out who I am as a mom, rediscovering my body, rediscovering my mind, rediscovering myself as a human first, and then as a woman, and then as a mom. So yeah, that would be my experience.
So first off, my name is Tracy. I'm a really quick background. I guess widowed mom of 3, 2 grandchildren, and yes, I have. Unfortunately, my situation was when the transitioning of my husband leaving this earth. So it started with me, a little bit of background. We were together, and I want to say it was maybe a year or 2 before he passed. I started realizing that when I got introduced to people, that it was always, this is my wife. this is my mom. And it wasn't until someone one day was like, oh, hi, Jeffrey's mom, which is my son. And I'm like, oh, well, maybe that's who I am. And then my husband would say, this is my wife. And one day it angered me so much, and I don't know why it angered me, but I finally said, I'm Tracy. And from then it was, wait a second, I went from my parents' house to my husband's house. And I was always a title, but not who I was. So when he transitioned, it made me realize that I went from being not the, I guess I was a caregiver, but not being like, say, the breadwinner to now happen to be the breadwinner. But it's like, what does that really mean? Can I do this? I didn't think I could do things on my own, only because I was always the second role. So that took a while. For 2 years, I wouldn't say I spiraled completely, like it wasn't a bad spiral, but I didn't know who I was or what I was. And that went on for 2 years. So finally one day, it was an occurrence at work, and someone said something to me and I exploded, because it was like, wait, you don't understand what I'm going through. This is what and that's when it hit me. I am I am Tracy. So I had to build from that, and I would actually went to therapy, which I don't mind sharing saying that.
Okay.
But I went one day to look, and I looked in the mirror and said, who is Tracy?
Thank you.
What can Tracy do?
Wow.
And once I realized what I can do, boy, oh boy.
What comes to mind is after the passing of my husband, I had an identity crisis because I was a wife and a caregiver, and I was also a college student. And so once he passed, and trying to figure out, okay, now what do I do? Who am I? I've been all these things all these years, and so now I have to decide what direction I'm going to go in, what is my new assignment, and I didn't know. So it took a lot of prayer, a lot of communicating, and it took counseling. I had to go to therapy, and the therapy helped quite a bit. And so now I'm still on that journey. It's like Michelle Obama's book, Becoming. I'm becoming.
Okay. So you're still in the process.
I'm still in the process.
Great. Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing.
I think one of the first things that come to mind when you talk about identity crisis is someone that maybe at some point in time may have kind of gotten disconnected from understanding who they are. And there may be some of those who've never had an opportunity to identify who they are. So when that happens, a lot of the times, for those who've already had an identity, so at some point they lose that identity. And a lot of times those things are triggered by family events, someone passing, losing a job, things of that nature. Those are the things that I think will make someone kind of hit a reset button and start to wonder, heck, do I even know who I am? It could be a religious experience that may change their whole thought about who they thought they were going to be. Nowadays, a lot of people kind of lean towards a social media aspect of things, where they're leveraging social media to kind of present their identity, right? It's like their brand. Like, who do I want to represent through this particular brand? So when I think about identity crisis, a lot of times I think about, kind of where we are nowadays, where you're leveraging those social media avenues. And for those who don't have one, you can see they're probably experimenting in social media, trying to find those identities by posting different videos and pictures and things of that nature, trying to maybe emulate something they've seen. Those are the things I think that people are kind of leaning towards when it comes to some type of identity crisis.
Oh, that's great perspective. Appreciate it. Thank you.